Can't see anyone.
It's luminous, huh? Yes?
Are we on? Are we on?
Hello? No, mine is not working.
So good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear us? Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Yes, you can.
I think.
So good afternoon.
Hello?
Would you like to make
Hello.
a test?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Hello. Yeah, isn't it too strong? Ça c'est fort.
Mets-le là.
Là, comme ça, c'est bien. Ok, merci Miro.
So welcome to the Sustainability Roundtable, focusing on innovation and strategy today, and tomorrow on the Middle Eastern region, and how we can trickle down the message to our region. So my name is Valerie Lovisa. I am a sustainability teacher and consultant, specializing in fragrance cosmetics, and my objective is to embed sustainability within the fragrance cosmetic industry across the supply chain. I'm also a B leader in that field, supporting companies toward their B Corp certification.
Hi, I'm Dominique Brunel. I'm one of the co-founders of NE, the olfactory cultural movement that you may know maybe throughout our publications here. NE Magazine, for instance, or NEZ, as people say usually, and which are available in French and in English. So we have here our panelists.
Before we start,
Sorry,
please,
I forgot.
sorry for interrupting. There are three key messages that we would like to pass today. So the first message is that the future of fragrances does not compromise neither on fragrance, long-lastingness, nor ambition. Second, you will learn today that sustainability is a driver for innovation. And third, you will see and learn how you can leverage this innovation as a driver for success for your own company and learn from the leaders on the market. So you may.
Thanks. So we'll ask our participants to present, introduce themselves. And first, also at the same time, if you can tell us what is your personal link to sustainability, not as a company, but as a person.
I'm first.
Yes, Charlotte, go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name is Charlotte Purcell and I work for CPL Aromas. We're an international fragrance house with factory here in Dubai. Sustainability, how can you not be passionate about sustainability as an individual and making change to protect for future generations the planet? So how can you not be passionate?
Okay. Guillaume?
Hi, my name is Guillaume Audi. I'm a Corporate Communication and Sustainability Director at fragrance house Iberchem. I, like everyone here, I mean, sustainability has always been part of my life. I don't think that's something that it's something that you have in you, I guess. I recently joined also the Cambridge Institute for Sustainability as an assessor. And I am really looking forward to transmit my whole passion about sustainability. It's transmitting it, trying to educate people so everyone really understand what is sustainability. Because I feel right now there's a lot of confusion what it means. I think there's a lot of greenwashing, and I think we have to try to be more precise and give you more insights about what it is exactly.
So we'll see that in a second.
Hopefully.
Dr. Kanwaldeep, would you like to tell us a bit more about yourself and your journey?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Kamaldeep, and I'm working for Ajmal Perfume since last 25 years. Ajmal has been forefront of supply of sustainable Agarwood since last 50 years, before even I joined. And they have been very particular about this product, not for the industry, but overall welfare of the farmers and overall welfare of the industry. I am engaged with the sustainable supply of Agarwood since last 25 to 26 years and engaging with the authorities, local, international, to change the rules so that everybody in the industry can get sustainable, regular, legal supply of Agarwood. Thank you.
Thank you. Javier, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you. So I'm Javier Hamblin. I'm head of technology for Givaudan for the SAMIA region, which spans across South Asia, Middle East, and Africa. And so basically my role is within R&D. And it's super exciting in terms of sustainability because we are in a position of working with the science and basically drive the change from innovation. So that's one of the topics we're going to cover today, and that's my personal connection with sustainability.
Thank you, Javier. So there is one first question that I'd like to ask the audience here. What is at stake when we're talking about sustainability? What is it to develop a sustainable fragrance? Are we talking about a natural fragrance, as Guillaume was mentioning, it's a bit blurry, or is there a broader approach to sustainability?
Well, I think first of all, sustainability for us is extremely important because we're actually linked to natural materials that we use in our fragrances. So of course, if we're not sustainable, we're putting at risk the ingredients that we use to create fragrances. So it kind of just makes sense for us to try to preserve plants and all the natural resources that we have out there. That's one thing.
Totally true. Charlotte, would you like to complete?
I think it comes back to definition. Sustainable fragrance means something different probably to each of you, whether it be natural, which you associate with green and sustainable, but there's the challenges of farming and protecting the land and those ingredients. It could be biodegradability, environmental hazards, avoiding those, through to upcycled ingredients. It's such a broad topic when we talk about sustainability, and that definition is so key in understanding what sustainable means to our customers and our suppliers to make sure it's across the whole value chain.
True. Javier, would you like to tell us a bit more about sustainability?
Yes, well, I think sustainable fragrances are basically responsible fragrances. So we need to think about, we need to work across the whole value chain, as Charlotte was saying. It's not only about the product that we sell, it's not only about our environmental footprint, but it's the whole value chain. So at Givaudan, we have sustainability embedded in the core of our purpose. So basically protecting nature, people, our communities, and also our creations. So it's really embedded in the way we work in every day, basically.
This is true. And if I may just add to your definition, and Dr. Deep will get back to responsible sourcing because you'll have a whole chapter to cover on Agarwood in a few minutes. When we talk about sustainability in the industry, it's not just natural fragrances. It's a balance, it's an harmony between business, profit, people, and planet. This is what we have to remember. We don't want to save the planet here. We want to find the right balance between people, planet, and profit. So everyone can strive, and we can keep on using beautiful fragrances, beautiful cosmetic, in the respect of our environment and our people.
Well said.
Thank you.
No, maybe it's used to take, I guess, this next one also.
Yes, this one is for you.
Yep. You want me to do that?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, you were talking about how it involves everyone, so our environment and our society. But the question also we had is, how do you tackle sustainability within your company? And how can you embark and embed everyone in this journey?
Well, if I can start.
Both
Like
of
I said
you.
before, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding right now about sustainability. And I think for me, at this point, in our sustainability program at IBTYS, what I'm really trying to do is to educate people, give them all the knowledge they need. What is sustainability for their job? What does it mean? Because sustainability is not a one-size-fits-all. Sustainability for a perfumer can be totally different from sustainability from somebody in the supply chain, for example, from purchasing. So right now what I'm trying to do is make sure that every employee that we have at IBTYS understands what sustainability means for their job. And that's quite challenging because it's, like I said, it's different for everyone. And I'm trying to make it relevant for each of these employees.
And
Yes.
Charlotte, are you, sorry?
Charlotte had a very good point as well.
I remember you have lots of, no,
So
lots
I think-
that's you engage a lot with with
Yeah.
all the employees of CPL.
So I couldn't agree more. It's tailoring your message to the people that you're trying to inspire. We're trying to communicate effectively, and through communication we can create change. And that's what sustainability, innovation is all about. It's about change. When it comes to embedding sustainability in your business, I think first off, it's looking at those UN SDGs. It's admitting you can't impact all of those. And it's
SDGs,
picking-
sorry, can you explain?
the Sustainable Development Goals, the UN Sustainable Development Goals. You can't do everything, so it's a case of picking the priorities for the business and where you can make the biggest impact. When you communicate, we need to communicate honestly. We don't want to add to any greenwashing. So it's authentic communication, and that's internally and externally. For us, we try and communicate regularly, so I'll communicate to the whole business, update them on our progress where we've made great strides, but also highlight the areas where we still have improvements. You know, we need to be humble and talk about the areas where we aren't making these great strides and come up with new plans to make progress there. I also, whenever I communicate, try and relate it back to headlines. You know, this is in the news, this is what we're talking about, and we as individuals need to make change. It's us as a business, but it's remembering that I can do small things, and those small things can make big changes collectively.
Okay.
And there is another point, because when we listen to you, we understand that companies have to be transparent. They also have to be collaborative, very good in communication, and up to date with what's happening in the industry right now to relate. And just to get back to the Sustainable Development Goals. So these goals have been defined by the European Union, and they are 17. So you see on which one you can tackle first, and sometimes you can implement an action that will target 2 or 3 SDGs at the same time. So when you study your sustainability strategy, you have to see the hanging fruits on which ones you can act first to be more effective, and then the next one in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, because we have to go further and improve ourselves not on the short term only, but we have to think long term. And then to get back to what you were saying, Guillaume, exactly about to embed sustainability within the supply chain, within the company, there is the concept of champion. Would you like eventually to tell us a bit more about champions?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Okay.
Maybe we have champions.
Yes, exactly. Okay. As sustainability chief officer, they are champions in their own company.
Oh, okay, so I'm one. Good.
We have champions across our business.
Okay,
so
yeah, exactly.
what we have is local champions, but then we have a global team, and we call them sustainability champions, and we give them key areas of focus. Sustainability is so broad, I can't keep up with every area, so it's having a local or a specific target. So we have not glamorous, but a waste champion, and they'll come with ideas and initiatives, and we'll look to implement those at local divisions. I think what you said as well about long-term versus short-term is so important. It's daunting, you know, the task that we have related to sustainability is vast, and we've got a lot to do, but it's breaking it up into bite-sized chunks and making it feel more relatable to today and what we can do with that end goal in 2030, 40, wherever you're setting that limit.
This is totally right.
What you have to understand is that sustainability is not like a typical marketing campaign where you launch a product. I don't know where you guys, if you do finished products, or if you're from the fragrance industry, but it's not like something that you start one day and then you get to the end and you just get your KPIs and that's it. Sustainability is something that is ongoing. It's never going to end. So that's why our job, when we will retire, we have to make sure the person who's going to be there after us keeps doing this work. And until there's no end line, actually. It's something that will never end. And that's something very challenging when you think about this, because you cannot think of it as in the same way that you do a typical, like for me, a communication campaign or a marketing campaign or whatever. It's a different approach. It's something that will never end.
Then I'm turning the microphone to Javier. Javier, when we're talking about at Givaudan about sustainability, how you tackle sustainability within the organization?
Yes. So, as my colleagues here said, it's a very vast topic, right? So, but we have to ensure that the whole organization is engaged in this. So, the purpose, having these 4 pillars that I mentioned in the purpose, including all the sustainability key goal areas, that's critical because that's in the first place very motivating, very inspiring for everyone in the company. And then to make it even more concrete and more measurable, last year Givaudan has announced that, has introduced for the first time purpose-linked targets in our strategy 2025. So on top of the usual traditional financial targets, we now have the purpose-linked targets, and these are very concrete. So one of them, for example, is the commitment to be carbon positive before 2025 across our whole supply chain, which is a major feat, right? And in the middle, we have a number of commitments for, like every 5 years, for 2025, 2030, and so on. Like, for instance, by 2025, we have the target to to be powering all our sites with 100% renewable energy. So these are just examples. We have many targets there, and these are super important because once you have a target, you start moving towards that, and it permeates the whole organization. So all the areas will be working towards the same targets in a coordinated manner.
Now we have a question for you. And I'm sorry we kept you waiting for so long. We keep you waiting for so long. So how does it work for Ajmal and the Agarwood, the responsible sourcing, the key role you're playing?
Okay, I will, Agarwood, the issue here came in 1970. I will just give you one line of the background where the problem come. When 1970, the demand for Agarwood increases, people start felling the tree. And that time, without realizing that only 7% of the tree in the forest had agarwood, so 94% of the tree just got wasted. They was as a timber. This was because people were not trained, they were not aware. So we believe in order to sustainable, the first point, you can say we take care is there should be an engagement between the farmers, but the expert and government authorities for education. Second, when we took up sustainability, Ajmal being a here leading company, Agarwood being a main product, one of the main product of the Middle East, we started plantation long back. Everybody started plantations. Then we realized that even if there is a plantation in your home garden, you cannot use it. It is considered as a wild plant. So all the rules which are applied to the forest are applied to the trees which are in your garden, domestic garden, or your home garden. What to do then? It was not possible. The Ajmal took head on this. How first we clear the definition of the domestically propagated tree so that farming can start. That was the first step to the sustainability of the agarwood. And prior to 1913, there was no clear definition of the domestically grown agarwood tree and wild agarwood trees. It took us around 7 years to engage with authorities to find out the solution for it. And we even sponsored the workshop for this. We engaged with all the scientific authorities from the region, from the Saudi Arabia, Middle East, this one, Bahrain, Kuwait, Indonesia, etc., sponsoring our thing. Then we visited higher authorities also. Then that time it was how we differentiate. So many techniques were done. Okay, DNA, if we DNA study we taken, then it will take 80 years to differentiate between the wild and harvested tree, etc. Somehow the definition was formed, and this paved the way for the commercial plantations. After that, for sustainable agarwood, because the already damage has done, the scientists have come up with a term called NDF, non-detrimental finding. Basically, this is a warranty to sustainable supply of the agarwood. It gives us how many trees are on the earth, what is their size, how the growth takes place, and on this, the quota per annum is sorted out. Now it is easy, it has become easy for the quota. Recently, Government of India introduced for the first time in history that 25,000 kg of agarwood and 1,500 kg of the oil will be produced. So we believe that in agarwood, there is no problem of the resources, but only certain rule has to be understood. 2019, I was engaged by the United Nations to work on status of the agarwood. Then I got data from all the authorities. So my assessment is that as on today, we need on the maximum supply 1,500 kg of chips agarwood and 40 kg of the oil is needed worldwide. And 40 kg oil can be distilled from 3,000 kg of the agarwood. So total requirement of agarwood per annum is 4,500 kg, which can be produced per 150 trees, provided it is efficiently done. And total worldwide population as on today is 30 million officially. Okay, so population is officially, and then I think it is a supply will be more, but only authorities, we are engaging with the authority to simplify the rules so that it can be, you can say, all the farmers, poor farmers, etc., can sell it. So here we have been engaging, ASML specifically, our foundation has been engaging with the farmers, with the union, with the, farmers and then poor distillation to educate them so that we can supply the agarwood to the company. Here, only in the agarwood whole history, because we are not supported by any other company, only ASML is taking up this for the whole industry. Yeah. Thank
and
you.
there's something very important that you're saying here, Dr. Deep, is that it is really, can you hear us properly? Yeah? Fantastic. Because here we have a whole eco. Because it's a 360 approach to sustainability that you're having now. And then you are training farmers, you're teaching them, and then you're connecting with government to change regulation, to increase the quota. And there's something like before today that we discussed about raising the quota. Would you like to tell us a bit more? How do we count how many trees we can actually cut? How do we identify these trees?
Okay, now the invention of technology has fastened the process. First, for cutting of the one tree, one has to grow either 3 to 5 trees. That is the norm. And earlier, people have to grow the trees and then apply for a registration. Then some inspector will come, he will check physically, will approve, etc. But now things have changed. When somebody grows the tree, he has to apply by providing GPS coordinate of the trees. Then the authorities verify by using satellite, by using radar technology, and this job is done within the next 2-3 days. And when I was engaging with government of this one, Tripura, one of state from where the name of agarwood comes, that how the process start, they want to commercialize the agarwood. So my main concern with them was the timeline, that because generally in government authorities, when we submit some application, it takes months and months. Then they say, no, okay, we will do it. We will use latest technology available, and timeline they have given us the 30 days. Even if 30 days it is not approved, farmers should deem as approval. So this is one of the engagement we are dealing with the farmers. Yeah.
And there is one more question, if I may ask, and spend more time on this point, which is crucial in our industry in the Middle East, the agarwood sourcing. It is, how can you make sure, if we enable all the farmers in Asia to produce their own agarwood, that the quality of agarwood that we're going to receive is going to be high, that the agarwood is going to be pure? How can we ensure this quality?
Quality, in specifically India today, we requested the government that for the export, farmer needs to be educated. I was there and many farmers have come for the exhibition for the oil, and they were storing the oil in plastic bottles. And we advised them, the first thing you should advise them that it should not be stored in the plastic bottle because phthalates can leach out. And secondly, we requested the government to put up the laboratory before any export. The oil is checked thoroughly. As on today, there are no such regulations, but only we have to check the adulteration and also the phthalates or the banned materials. So that will ensure. Then again for the quality, important factor is as on today, the grading of the agarwood is not available based on chemistry. It is just on personal perceptions. So we have engaging with the various agencies, with authorities, even in the UAE, so that the agarwood can be graded. So price should be as per the grade and not as per the personal perceptions, etc. This is going on from our side. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Deep. It was clear. And now we would like actually to hear Charlotte and Guillaume around innovation. How sustainability drives innovation in your companies as well. What are the examples that you'd like to share with us today?
Shall I start?
You can start. Go ahead.
Sustainability has to be embedded in innovation. Everything that we're generating from an R&D side has to be sustainable to meet the customer's demands now, and it's an expectation. For us, we have lots of technologies, and for us, Ecoboost is seen as our most sustainable technology. So at CPL, we developed Ecoboost over 10 years ago, but it's really having its moment now. It really meets the needs of our customers. So the idea here is that you use less. One of the key principles of sustainability is, well, remove first, but then reduce. And this reduces the fragrance by at least 10 times. We're reducing emissions by over 90% compared to a normal fragrance. We are reducing on-pack labeling from a safety and people concept that sustainability is a key pillar of. It costs less. You're using less product. You can make those really gorgeous creamy bases that you want without adding too much liquid in that dilutes it. So Ecoboost for us, from the environmental side helps, but it helps with lots of the other challenges that we face when we're developing products. So as I say, we've had it for over 10 years, but we're really now seeing its advantages from that sustainability side. It's caring more by using less. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlotte.
Actually, that's one of the probably one of the fragrance solution that people know the less. Probably the Ecoboost. We call it high intensity fragrances. We also, every time I talk about this to a sales rep, I'm trying to explain them because they don't see the behind. Everybody wants biodegradable fragrances, for example. But Ecoboost is a bit more, or high-intensity fragrances are a bit more complex because it tackles transportation, packaging, like you said. And this, for me, is one of the best sustainable solutions that fragrance houses can offer, like on the go for a client. Because it really helps reduce, for example, carbon emissions and a lot of things. It's a very complete solution. At Iberchem also, what we're trying to do right now is work a lot on biodegradable solution because we get a lot of requests for that from customers. So we have obviously biodegradable fragrances. What a hard word. And also all of our fragrance technologies from NeoCaps, NeoPure. Our teams are trying to find biodegradable versions of these technologies because we do get a lot of requests for this kind of fragrance solution. So, but there are so many things that, and I think also Givaudan, you're doing an amazing work in terms of innovation also.
Would you like to tell us more, Javier? I know there's a lot of initiatives,
Yes.
but we can focus maybe to bounce on your conversation about biodegradability and naturality indexes.
Yeah, okay. So, yes, indeed, we have a lot of initiatives. So, just to mention the diversity of the initiatives, we have the Sourcing for Good program, which is about responsible sourcing. And this is not R&D, it's not really my area, but it's super crucial. And it's not new in Givaudan, it's been revamped to include not only naturals, but also indirect materials and services. So, because everything has to be sustainable, right? So now coming on to my area, which is more the R&D part, biodegradability, renewability, upcycling, carbon. You know, there's a number of parameters around optimization of carbon in fragrances, because basically our raw materials are based on carbon backbones, and we need to make it efficient. So we have embedded all these elements in a vision which is called 5-carbon path, which defines some principles and actually measurements and targets. So whenever we design a new molecule, we have all these parameters in mind, and very early in the process when selecting the molecules, because if we want to be 100% sustainable, 100% renewable, 100% biodegradable one day, we need to start today, very early, by basically selecting the right molecules, right? So we need to, whenever a molecule is not ticking on some of these boxes, we need to stop it right away and focus on other ones. So that's a key thing that we use within R&D when designing new molecules. Okay, and then I have a few examples. Like for example, just to mention, to build on the topic about compaction, we launched some years ago. We launched a new molecule called Nymphéal. Right, it's a Givaudan captive. Well, we started. It's an interesting story because we started the development because of a regulatory challenge, right? We had to replace another ingredient which was heavily used, which was lilial. And when we started to look for molecules to replace this ingredient, at some point we were able to develop Nymphéal. Nymphéal is 10 times more performing, more intense compared to the benchmark, lilial. And it's also biodegradable, but it's super interesting because when you find ingredients which are so much more powerful, what that actually means for perfumers is that they would be able to use a lot less in their formulas, and that's how we arrive at compaction. And so that's a super interesting example. But we actually do this with every single molecule development. So each of the new captives that we've been launching in Givaudan, they have all of them been more performing than their own benchmarks, than their predecessors. So we are moving consistently towards that direction. And then to give you a couple of examples about upcycling, and biotechnology, we also developed a new version of Ambrofix. Ambrofix is one of the materials that is most widely used by Givaudan. For you to have an idea of the impact, in 1 every 3 formulas sold by Givaudan, we use Ambrofix, right? So the new Ambrofix, it's exactly the same molecule, but we were able to develop it by fermenting responsibly sourced sugarcane. So we're using a renewable feedstock to produce the same molecule. So the same molecule now is more renewable. It's actually 100% renewable. It's still biodegradable. It's still having all the same properties that it had. And we did that with the help of biotechnology. And just the last example, just to cover the upcycling part. So we have examples of upcycling also in synthetic ingredients, but I'm going to give you some example of naturals, because we do a lot also with naturals. So what we've been doing in the last few years, and we continue to do, is to upcycle things that were basically going to waste. Like we have developed fruit oils out of fruit puree from the juice industry. Examples of that, we have apple oil, we have peach oil, and we have some more in the pipeline. And that's very important, and it's very critical, because you can't do that just out of the blue. You need to be where the waste is. Yeah? The supply chain is super critical there, because whenever we're talking about naturals or certain fractions that are going to waste, or we're talking about our own chemical production, where we have side streams that are going to waste, that's where we need to be to transform these materials into something useful and to valorize them. Right? So.
And if I may add something, when it comes to innovation, I don't know, you don't need big labs to be innovative. Sometimes it's just a matter of doing things differently. You don't need to do to create biotechnology, new ingredients. Sometimes, I'll give you a very simple example. this year we decided to transform our calendar, something that would distribute thousands and thousands of copies of our annual calendar at Iberchem. We decided to do it differently, without glue, without metal rings, and so it was just a matter of thinking another way how to put it together in terms of design, and that's also innovation. So even for you, you think like, oh no, I don't have access, I don't have financing to innovate, I don't have like chemists or whoever to be innovative. Well, that's not necessarily it. You can just try to think of other ways to do things, and you can be innovative.
There is one thing that comes back from the discussion we're having right now is that we have to preserve our natural resources because they are scarce. And we keep on increasing our consumption of fragrance and cosmetics. And tomorrow there will not be enough soil to grow the fragrance oil that we need for our fragrances. So we need to find alternatives. By optimizing formula with green chemistry, upcycling and biotechs are also examples of green chemistry. And there is also one example that you gave us on off, Guillaume. It's about shortening formulas. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That's also a very good tool for perfumers to shorten formulas and then to check from the consumer perspective, what do we really smell? What kind of ingredients are not perceptible, we cannot sense anymore, that we can remove from formulas to increase our efficiency, optimize our resources.
Yeah, because sometimes, well, they're not going to like me when I say this, but sometimes perfumer, obviously, they're artists, and they perceive things that most people, we don't even notice. And so for them to tell them, like, maybe you don't need that many ingredients in your formula, and the end customer won't even notice it.
Yeah, totally.
And so you have to try. They don't like me when I say that, but it's true.
Yes,
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I think by doing that as well, you're optimizing internally. Your manufacturing process is shorter, more sleek. So there's other benefits as well as just the resources and the raw materials.
That's true.
But just, but before that, what tools do they have as the perfumers when they work to do the right formula that is more sustainable, more biodegradable?
Well,
Javier.
we're using SAP actually. It's nothing very sexy. So for them it's just a database that can help them like identify which materials are more sustainable. If they want to include 60% of biodegradable materials, raw materials, for example, they just click and they can get. It's easier for them than to try to remember all of it because they're working with thousands of raw materials. So for them, it's just another way to make it easier. But I know some companies like Givaudan are maybe a step ahead than smaller fragrance houses like us. I know they're working with artificial intelligence, for example. I don't know much about this. Maybe Javier knows more about AI than I do.
Do you want to tell us about Naturality Index?
Yes. So we do have also artificial intelligence to aid creation. We're not replacing perfumers at all. But yeah, the main way we are addressing this at Givaudan is with the Naturality platform, basically. We have created the Naturality platform to have a broader understanding, a deeper understanding of consumers and also the segmentation of the market. Because one thing that's very important that we haven't mentioned yet, I think, is that we can't address this with just going 100% natural. That's not the answer, that's not the solution at all, because it's not sustainable for two reasons. One is the planet will not cope with the demand of naturals, so it's impossible. And B, because these natural raw materials are not precisely the ones with the best environmental profile. So we need a balance between natural raw materials and synthetic raw materials to achieve the best possible environmental profile for our fragrances. So we have all these, we have mapped all these ingredients, or we have like database like Guillaume was mentioning. So when the perfumer is creating, they have something that we call the Naturality Index, where they can basically use this to guide their selection of ingredients based on the parameters that affect sustainability. And when we work with clients, It's also, to understand what are the needs from them and from their consumers, because not all consumers are at the same point in the sustainability journey, right? This is a journey. We are in this journey. Consumers are also in this journey. And we need to understand what consumers are looking for, and then we need to basically be able to create fragrances towards their needs. And we use the Naturality Index for that, so perfumers can actually achieve what is required by consumers and by clients.
Thank you, Javier. Would you like to add something, Doctor?
I would like to innovation to the sustainability here. This Agarwood species is very different from all other species, because in other species we get normally the seasonal oil is produced and it is harvested, but here in the natural form it takes 50 to 70 years to develop the Agarwood. The innovation is very exciting here because we have to decrease the time of Agarwood formation so that it is viable. Otherwise, nobody will grow it. So we have been working to identify actually what goes inside the tree, how the nature works by analyzing, sequencing RNA, DNA, and to finding out which components are responsible for synthesis of the terpenoid. And accordingly, we have been treating the tree so that we get the Agarwood in 7th year, 8th year, and once we seed the tree, so it's ready to give us the product in next 10, 15 years. From this knowledge, we can also go for the biotechnology process that Agarwood oil can also be produced by white biotechnology, which everybody is using it. We have done also, but then we feared if we sell this product in the market, hundreds of thousands farmers will become jobless.
Not have jobs.
How, what to do it? How hundreds of thousands, farmers, traders, small traders. So for us, job of these poor farmer in this poor country is very important. So that is why we are not, engaged. So we want to go on the natural way. So we are not very much interested to substitute with synthetic or biotechnology products, basically because of the employment point of view for several 500, 600, and I don't think even millions of people are there depending upon these things. Yeah.
So sustainability drives innovation, but we also have to balance with our social impact we can have on our communities, local communities.
Yes.
Totally. Now I have a tricky question for our participants, because we talked for now about how do we tackle sustainability within the company. But now what about the 360 approach? How do you embed sustainability across the supply chain, involving your partners, customers? How do you proceed to have a positive impact all across the industry? Would you like to start?
I can start. I know that answer as a champion. When you work with other people from outside of your company, I always think that, for me, sustainability, a very important part of sustainability comes from alliances. And which alliance is actually an SDG in itself. It's SDG 17. And so when you work with somebody, always think that maybe if you bring somebody else around the table, it might help you being even more sustainable. So I guess that would be my answer to that. There's so much more I could say. But I invite you not to think that you can achieve a full sustainability result only by working one-on-one with somebody. Think, who else could you invite in your discussion, in the brainstorm, that could help you being more sustainable? And you'll see you can achieve greater results.
This is true. Thank you for sharing. You were actually the first one to invite me at the bow that Dominic organized for the Barcelona Olfactive Week about a year ago.
Exactly.
So yes, definitely, you had a great impact.
I'm all about alliances and working together. I love working with different people and get to know what other people are doing. And this is how you get your knowledge. This is how you learn things. That's how I learned I'm a champion.
Exactly. Exactly.
Without our collaboration right now, well, I wouldn't know that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's collaborating across the supply chain. You can't do it all yourself. You need to be linking in with your suppliers, your transport companies, through to your customers, you need to be thinking about how you're shipping your goods, how they're shipping it to you, where the material's coming from, is it responsible? But it's working together, that you honestly cannot do this insular and just looking internally. So there's lots of tools and companies that help you with this. So SEDEX would be an example, and SEDEX are a risk assessment tool for your supply chain. So it's like Facebook.
Explain maybe what is.
Yeah.
Can you explain what it is?
Yeah, it's like Facebook. You create links with your suppliers, and each supplier fills out a self-assessment questionnaire, and that covers things from ethical business, all kinds of aspects of sustainability. They're then given a score, and that's based on their industry, based on the country they operate in, but also on the questionnaire as well. So from that, you're able to get a really good picture of your high-risk suppliers, and that would be where you would target perhaps to spend more time and more collaboration with those suppliers to reduce that risk within your supply chain. There's so many other tools when it comes to suppliers. It's so broad. Thousands of materials, lots and lots of partners that we have to work with. And I think that's a key word when we talk about sustainability. It's a partnership, and so important.
And this is very important what you mentioned, exactly. And here you just talked about SEDEX, but there are other accreditation entities like EcoVadis or B Corp certification as well, but it's more a B2C approach. And SEDEX, EcoVadis are more B2B. There is also Fair for Life for suppliers.
Yeah.
So there are 10, I would not say 1,000, but a few very good accreditation that we could use.
I think they all specialize in different things. So EcoVadis is more of an assessment tool of your business, and it gives you a score at the end. So it's a way of comparing perhaps a definition maybe, but you're able to get that clear visibility. So EcoVadis, we're really proud. We achieved the platinum score a couple of months ago, and that was a huge achievement for us, and it's almost an accreditation that we're doing the right thing and we're moving in the right in the right direction. So yeah, as you say, there's B Corp, there's so many, but they all focus on slightly different things. It's working out the ones that align with your business and what you're trying to achieve.
And on this topic, there is one point where I really like to highlight is that we see all these companies who are claiming to become carbon neutral or carbon positive, climate positive by 2030. Do you want to tell us a bit more?
Yes, well, that's one of the things that we put in our targets. As I mentioned before, we have the ambition to become carbon positive by 2050 across all our supply chain. So what does it mean to become carbon positive? It means it's not just neutrality. It's not just achieving a net. It's going beyond that. It's going beyond compliance. And another thing that we're doing in this area, well, we're covering this with our Sourcing for Good program, so fully aligned with what my colleagues mentioned here. It's about collaboration. It's about engaging with suppliers, with our partners, and the communities. Yeah. So, but one other thing that we started last year at Givaudan is we announced our aspiration to become a certified B Corporation. So what this means is basically this is a certification for companies that are acting as a force for good to enhance, to improve the world in a positive way. So it's not just about doing good business, it's about acting as a force for good, also driving change in business. Okay, so that's our aspiration. And working towards that, one of the key areas is indeed, taking care of the communities where we work. As I mentioned before, through our Sourcing for Good program. And one example which is very interesting that I would like to mention is, for example, when for vanilla in Madagascar. We have been supporting the communities there with the Givaudan Foundation by basically training them on improving their processes, also improving the agricultural techniques to improve the yields, and also reconstructing schools, taking care of the community in a holistic way. And B Corp is a very holistic certification because it really involves all these different aspects, from communities to how you care for the people in your company, to your creations and the way you sell fragrances. So we have this commitment to change from the way we design the fragrances, the way we source the raw materials, and all across the supply chain up to the way we sell our fragrances to our clients. So it's the whole value chain that matters.
And there's a key message here that comes back is that transparency. We are seeking for transparency across the supply chain so the customer know exactly what is buying and which community is supporting on the other hand, and which positive climate impact he has on the planet. So that's key, I would say, to succeed.
And also, if I might add something, because I saw people noting like the certifications, and what I always think of certification as something that has to be relevant for your company and something that's coherent. And you have to think like, am I there yet? Like, don't think of a certification as something that you just have to tick off your list. Make sure you're there. I know that for CPL, it made sense for them to be certified, or for us to be certified EcoVadis or SEDEX. You have to be. It's not just something you have to tick off your list. It has to be relevant with everything you're doing in your organization.
Yeah, it has to align with your aspirations, 100%. Yeah.
Totally true.
Yeah.
Now we'd like to talk about regulation. So please bear with us. It's not going to be long. So, especially in the fragrance and cosmetic industry, what about the IFRA regulation in the region? Like, what about your companies? What's your position towards IFRA, the Sustainability Charter? How are we IFRA compliant in the region?
Shall I?
You can.
So, as a member of IFRA, it's really important that our fragrances are IFRA compliant, and I'm sure we'd all agree with that sat here. So, really important. This last year was the first time we had an IFRA sustainability charter. So again, I'm sure we all were members, and we all input data into that. And that's the first time that our industry and the flavor industry have come together to report on sustainability. So really important, collectively, again, coming together, working together and reporting that progress transparently over the years to come. So a really important step for the industry.
This is true. Guillaume, would you like to add something?
Well, I don't know where to start.
Yes, it's a very long story.
Yeah. But I think there is still more to do about regulations. For example, right now, if you probably, I don't know if you're interested into biodegradability, but right now it's a bit confusing because you have many definitions, you have many standards, So I think there's still a lot that needs to be done in terms of regulations, because it's a bit blurred, in my opinion. But that doesn't come from us. So.
I think the challenge with regulations is they're trying to input sustainability into some of the regulations coming. So we've seen the capsules and the microplastics and the ban on those, which I support. I think it's great. But we've got new European regulations going through at the moment, and it's all about a chemical strategy for sustainability, and how those two align is going to be really interesting over the years to come, and the changes that might bring.
I would like as well, we hear Dr. Deep on IFRA regulation, and how does it apply to the Agarwood industry?
IFRA regulation to Agarwood is a very, very challenging. We have engaged with IFRA also on this. It is not like other essential oil, patchouli, or rose oil. There is a one species or two species. As on today, there are the 43 species of agarwood. And 15 species are very active, commercially used. And peculiar characteristic of this every species is its composition varies from place to place. One tree, for example, species growing in India will have different composition, and in it same species when it grows in Malaysia has entirely different composition. So it is a very, very complex oil. Exactly, we have been engaging with IFRA how to do it, how to standardize. If we, for example, study toxicity or characteristic of a one particular oil, what for the other oil. There is no standard oil available in the market. So far it's not IFRA compliance, but it has not been studied because of this complexity. I really don't know how we will solve it. It's not a simple oil. There may be 50 varieties in the market or 60 varieties in the market. So we cannot do, there is no one particular reference available that we can, say this is the one product and we have to study it. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Now, Javier, would you like to highlight us a bit regarding the IFRA compliance? As I know that Givaudan is also a signatory member of the Sustainability Charter.
Yes, exactly. And well, what I can say is a couple of things. One is Givaudan has the policy of complying with the most stringent regulatory regulations in the world, which are the European ones. But I'm sure in general, we're all compliant in that sense. So that's one thing. In terms of certification, with our Sourcing for Good program, we are able to cover all the different types of certifications. And I'm not going into details because, there's certifications for so many different things that I'm even getting lost in there. But we can comply, depending on the needs of the client or the particular product, we can comply with whatever is required in terms of certification. And then, as I mentioned before, at a higher level, at a corporate level, we are certifying for B Corp. So that means we're not just looking to comply, we're looking to make a positive impact, going beyond what is required from businesses, just thinking ahead and try to be a step ahead of regulations.
And maybe before actually asking the question to our participant, we could have presented IFRA. What is IFRA? Well, it's an international fragrance association that defines the rules that will enable our fragrance and cosmetics to be safe for people and the environment. And how does it work in the region? Well, if you are an owner of a fragrance brand or cosmetic brand, you can become a supporting member of IFRA. Then you would have access to webinars, material that will take you to another stage to make sure that you are more compliant to people's safety and environment. So that's a key message on IFRA and regulation that we'd like to pass today. Now we have another question for you, but this one it's Dominic covering, as is the founder of NEZ Magazine. He will be better fitted for this question, definitely.
Yeah, actually, and also because Javier, you were talking about presenting the Naturality guide to your customers. And so your customers are people from the industry first, but also you have the end customer, so the people who goes to the retail and ask for perfumes. And at some point, how do they really know what is a sustainable perfume? Sometimes they think it has to be 100% natural, as you said, which is not really maybe relevant. And there is a kind of a food chain here, so from the end customer and retailer and the brand, and then also the fragrance houses and the producers. And so I think at your level it's quite complicated because you have to answer the demand of your direct customers, who are the brands, generally, I guess. But so what are the kind of demand that you receive from them? And actually a demand is as relevant as the person who asks is relevant in the matter. How do they know really how to express in their brief a demand for sustainability, and how do you accompany them and help them? So, for instance, as we are doing right now, so to understand what it is exactly as sustainability and how it can apply to their business.
Yeah. When I sit down at the table with a client that's requesting sustainability for its fragrances, I always make sure that its request is coherent for its whole product. Of course, we have solutions to offer him, but for me, if your fragrance is sustainable but your packaging isn't, Well, it doesn't make sense. So you have to have this conversation with your customer, and I think as champions, we need to address this kind of topic to make sure that our customer, that our clients who are making, well, I'm talking about fragrance houses here, our clients who are making finished product, they actually understand what it means and how it's relevant to them to include a sustainable fragrance in the whole concept of their product, their finished product. So I think that's something very important to communicate at the time of brainstorming about what is sustainability for, I just saw myself, for their product.
There is a champion on the
Yeah.
screen. Have you seen that?
I think it's making sure that we're aligning with what their definition of sustainability is as well. So, asking for a global sustainable fragrance, but what does that even mean? Where are you selling? What claims are you trying to make on your product, and how we can help
that
you?
as
All
a
the
brief?
time, yeah. So you've got to dig into the detail, and with that, you've got to make sure that your sales team are comfortable to have those conversations with the clients themselves, so they have all the background and the training and the awareness of what we're able to support them with. And with claims, you've got to be able to substantiate them. So we've got to make sure that we can provide those fragrances that support what our customers are trying to achieve.
Okay.
So it's actually not about storytelling, it's about story proofing,
Yeah.
and make sure that we have KPIs and key metrics that support our claim, and making sure that when we're talking to the customer that the product is sustainable, or at least we made improvements from last year and the year before, and these are the data. So we have to install the right metrics, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So when it comes to the consumers, Dr. Deep, how do you proceed?
Pardon?
How do you proceed when it comes to the consumers to raise awareness?
For the consumer, we ensure that they get the right quality, okay, right grade of the oil. Being very expensive oil, people have tendency to adulterate it with essential oil, which looks similar to Agarwood, which is not easy to detect. So one has to be very expert to detections. And also we make sure that sometimes some small adulterations are noted in the oil from where it comes. We try to find out its source. Sometimes it comes from polluted water, or something has been spread on the field, or some, you can say, contamination during processing, etc. So all the precautions are taken care, and then proper, you can say, grade of the oil is applied to the consumer with proper testing and proper origin. As I told you that there are 43 species, and some oil has a very high value and others are very low value, and people always try to substitute it by saying, for example, it's an Indian oil, but they will try to supply Malaysian oil, which will be quite cheaper to them. And we have all the database of all the regions. Perhaps the biggest database on Agarwood oil with us is. So we can identify from where it has come, from which forest it has come, from which region it has come. So we ensure that whatsoever requirement is, we, you can say, comply to that with our testing, you can say, techniques. Yeah.
And communicate on it.
Yes,
Making sure that it has been applied,
Yeah.
transparent, and it's sustainable, plus we communicate on it.
Yes, communication with the supplier. Yes, sir. Right. And we want actually the government or any agency to grade the oil to give it a scientific way. But so far we have not been succeeded. It will be very easy for the producer as well for the consumer if we use chemistry to grade the oil like other products or other essential oil. Because this oil is sold in many grades depending on the presence of active component. Sometimes it is 100% active component, some 50, 30, sometimes even 2%. So many commercial grades are available as on today, but these are decided between the seller and buyer, and there is no any formal rules available for this. And we wish that one day this type of grading has to be implemented. We have worked on it. We have divided the oil into 4 or 5 grades depending upon the chemistry, but let's hope that one day it will be, you can say, used by authorities. Yeah, thank you.
And I have a question coming from direct customer because, okay, maybe Agarwood at this stage in time is not IFRA compliant, but is it safe for the environment and people to be used?
Yeah, it's safe. Pure Agarwood, number one, it does not have any allergens. That is one of the, you can say, characteristic of the pure oil. And if it is a adulteration, then some allergens, some may be detected. But oil is used since like, I think, 4,000, 5,000 years regularly. It's not a new oil. So if there was any side effect, then people would have stopped using it. But there has not been any complaint so far, and it is used in aromatherapy and also calming the mind. And these days, main research is being done on its medicinal properties rather than on perfumery properties. And we feel that in coming years, a decade, Agarwood will be more involved into the perfumery, in functional products rather than on perfumery. Recently, studies have very clearly shown that the leaves have antioxidants. So these were used to quench the free radicals. So it can be a good natural oxidant for the cosmetics also. This also extracts are being used for diabetics and other many diseases to do it with very, you can say, good speed. Good research is going on. Number of projects are going on its medicinal properties. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So we are just waiting for Agarwood that the quota increases, the price drops a bit, so we can start using a bit more of Agarwood everywhere. Yeah. Javier, would you like to add something regarding the communication for customers?
Yeah. So we are. I was thinking while you were all talking. Yeah. So we are B2B companies, right? So we don't have brands, but still consumers are paying attention to what companies are doing, to what businesses are doing. So of course brands have a huge responsibility, but also us as a business have a huge responsibility, and we have to communicate what we do, not just for our clients, but also eventually for the final consumers. For us, it's very important then, since we don't have brands, to communicate through our website, through social media, about our purpose, our commitments, our new developments, what we are doing. It's about actions, and it's also about, I think what's important is to raise awareness. Consumers are becoming more and more aware and are becoming more and more selective of products that are good for the environment. So for us, it's important to drive this and to raise this awareness in consumers. Yeah.
And you're totally right, saying that if you want as a brand to be more successful, you have to answer the customer's demand for more naturality, for more healthy ecosystem, and caring about people with safe product. So it's true, it's definitely to take into account.
And one more thing to add, which is very interesting, is consumers are also changing in a way because they change their expectations. So once consumers are looking for more sustainable products, they also understand that it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to smell the same. And I'm not saying it's going to smell bad, quite the contrary, it could even smell better. We have plenty of examples of things that we've developed which are more sustainable, and they opened a lot of creative possibilities for perfumery. So this is amazing because it's not just that consumers will be compromising on quality or olfactive appeal. It could be better, more creative.
So it's a driver for innovation and a driver for success.
Yeah.
That's an agenda.
Exactly.
Now we have a last question to ask our participants before we move on to the Q&A. Dominique?
Sorry.
The floor is yours.
Yeah. Yes, so we have been talking about the present, and the present is already the future. But what will be the future of the future, according to you, champion?
Yeah.
About what are the next steps for sustainability, or what can you dream of, or maybe the next thing coming.
Wow. I don't know. There are so many things I could say here. Oh, that's the only chance I have. First of all, I think there's still a lot of coherence to achieve in terms of sustainability in the future. I'll give you a concrete example. This week I was at Expo 2020 Dubai, and I was in the souvenir shop, the store, and I saw this. Obviously, the expo is all about sustainability, and so I went to their store to see what kind of products they had, and they had this beautiful T-shirt that was saying, "This shirt has been made with 3 bottles of water that has been recycled, and also using organic cotton." I was like, "Ah, that's great. That's great." Then I read the tag where that shirt was made, and it was made in India. And I really doubt, to be honest, that it was made in the Lotus Tower downtown Mumbai, to be honest. And this is the kind of thing that we need to work on to be more coherent when we talk about sustainability, because there are so many mixed messages right now. People try to be sustainable, but in the end, when at the eyes of people who know a little bit about sustainability, or even the public in general, you can easily be how could I say that? Kind of look bad, because that whole T-shirt now didn't mean anything to me. The 3-bottle thing, that was worthless. And what else did I want to say? I forgot. But yeah, that's one of the things I think we should improve in the future.
Guillaume, if you had one last advice to give to fragrance or cosmetic brands here to become more sustainable and drive their businesses towards a successful path, what advice would you give them?
Oh, also, yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to say. Don't fall into cliches. Don't think that plastic is bad necessarily. Don't think that natural is the best solution. Plastic can be actually very good, can be very sustainable if you use it correctly. Plastic can last forever. So the idea is not to throw away plastic once you've used it. If you keep it your whole life, then it's sustainable. So people, that's what I was saying right now. That's what I was saying before. There's this kind of misunderstanding of what is sustainability. And we have so many cliches that we're working with right now. And people need to read a bit more and to try to go beyond these cliches and trying to find what's sustainability and what sustainable really means for your brand and for your company.
Thank you. Charlotte, one last advice.
You can't do everything. Prioritize, pick your biggest areas of impact and look for reduction pathways before offsetting. We need to reduce first before we're taking any offsetting routes. So you can't do everything. Sustainability is very broad, but yeah, definitely prioritize, and you'll see improvements quickly, I'm sure.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Deep.
I would say the natural resources should be used wisely. Good for the next generation, so they can use those material, and good for the environment. And we have to engage with everybody here, all the stakeholders. It cannot be done by one entity. Yeah. So that's why engaging with everybody, so that jointly we can produce whatsoever product, our major product in a sustainable manner. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Deep. Javier, one last advice.
Yeah, I think in a way it's kind of summarizing what we've already said, but I think what's most important is, as an advice, is to drive innovation across your entire value chain in your companies. That's very important, and it doesn't mean that you have to do all at once. We're not doing all at once. We are also prioritizing, right? But you need to review your whole value chain. That's super important. That's one thing. Because innovation doesn't belong just to R&D office. It belongs to every area. Every area of the company can innovate in whatever they're doing. Yeah? So that's the first thing. Second thing is setting challenging targets for your business and for your company. That's super critical, because there are exceptions, but normally you find those things that you're looking for, right? If you're not looking for something, your chances are you're not going to find it.
Yes.
So it's very important to set those challenging targets, because once you do that, everybody will really start to look for solutions. And guess what? Solutions are going to appear, and often those solutions are really even incredibly more than you were expecting in the first place. Yeah. So I think those would be my 2 points here.
Thank you, Javier. if I may add to our discussion a few key points here, I believe transparency, collaboration are keys, we mentioned. That's why we're here today. We also need to ensure that we select and we track key metrics, so we can see the improvements from one project to another, from 1 year to another. That's key. And I would say that's something that I learned in coaching, is that if you want to get something new, you have to do something new. Get it? Meaning that if you want your product to be more sustainable and then your brand to be perceived as more sustainable, you have to do something towards that direction and put your energy and your focus towards that direction. Maybe allocating like 10% of your resources in research and development towards a sustainable goal. So now we are open for Q&A. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask us? Please. Do we have a mic eventually?
I'm going to remove my mask. So first of all, thank you for this very interesting exchange. I've been attending a lot of different exchange on the sustainability. The first time I could see the big picture. But I'm working for a world producer of my ingredient, mainly synthetic, but also developing fermentation capabilities now. So we are supplying most of you. And the question I have that, you are asking your producer to be more sustainable, to be more, to develop new ingredient, renewable, etc. But that comes with a cost. Who is endorsing the cost?
Could you repeat the last sentence?
I know the last sentence was probably the one that you don't want to hear.
Like you are supplying us, you're into ingredients, chemical ingredients.
Yeah,
now
chemical ingredient, but we are asked also to develop new ingredient with through fermentation and renewable feedstock. Everything comes at a cost. Who will endorse the cost? Who will pay?
Who will endorse the cost?
Qui va payer?
Okay. But where we have to see it like on a business perspective, because it's business development. Because then, okay, your products are going to become more sustainable, so it's going to attract more customers. And eventually, you're going to go for auditing as well. And through the auditing process, you get a higher grade of sustainability. So you're going to have access to another network of customers. So instead of having just this set of customers, then you have a broader set of customers. Plus, as you went through the certification and through the improvements, you can pay a premium, because then you have to trickle down, how do you say that? Not trickle down. You have to cover the research and development cost. So I would say that somehow money will come back. Do you understand?
Yeah, no, I was just thinking that, again, we are supplying, so we need to charge additional cost, which means that the F&F house also have to buy raw materials at higher cost. And they have to supply it to the consumer. Will the consumer be ready to pay more for a sustainable fragrance or not? By how much?
I would say yes. And I would say something that was key here, it was collaboration. Because from day one, if you collaborate with your customers and then you say, listen, in my project's pipeline, I want to do this, and these products are going to become more sustainable. What about you pre-order them? You pre-order like a few quantity, so then I can invest in research and development. You know what I mean? So really, like, collaboration would be key.
I think as well, if you aren't thinking about sustainability in the development, you're going to lose business ultimately. You know, it's about one of the pillars is profit, and we have to be profitable, but equally we have to be sustainable as well. So it's that fine balance.
What I would say, always try to challenge the person who's buying your product. Ask him, what else could you do to lower your costs? Because sometimes sustainability, yeah, like you said, it rises costs, but also sometimes it can help you reduce your costs actually, and people don't think about that. And for example, solar energy or there are many things you can do to using sustainable solution to lower your costs. So one advice I could give you is challenge your buyers and tell them, like, okay, maybe my product is a bit more expensive, but have you thought somewhere else in your product where you could lower your cost to compensate?
There is one thing I'd like to add here. We were not supposed to talk about it for today, but it's about sustainable finance, because it's a hot topic, sustainability, and banks are also investing in sustainable projects, meaning that they have a pool, they have a certain amount of money that is available for sustainable projects. And when you become more sustainable as a company, you can also benefit from like sustainable discounts from your partners and eventually customers that will trickle down these sustainable benefits across the supply chain. And there are finance entities proceeding that way, such as BNP Paribas, but also UBS. It's a pretty hot topic, sustainable finance. Thank you. It was a very interesting question. We have 30 seconds for another question. Do you have something you'd really like to talk about? Otherwise, we will thank you for your participation. And tomorrow, we will host another sustainability roundtable.
Yes, so this roundtable is available for a few days on the Beautyworld platform and then on YouTube. And tomorrow at noon, we'll have another one more focused on the Middle East. Yes. Which title is sustainability in the Middle East, a lever for success.
Yes. So sustainability in the Middle East, and showing you how it can be a lever for success by welcoming guest speakers such as brands, Widian with Ali Al-Jaberi, its founder, but also Anfazik Tohoun with Olympia Mascolo, its founder. We also get the chance to welcome two B2B companies, Simrise and CPL Aroma, their general manager, Tarek Anbar and Raouya Kato. So we truly look forward to having you on board tomorrow and continue this journey together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.